Thank you so much, Judy. My name is Brenda Chisholm-Beaton. I'm Mayor of the Town of Port Hawkesbury, also Vice President of NSFM. Really happy to be here today to welcome you to the Mentoring Plus webinar. And I would like to, and I guess the title of the Mentoring Plus webinar is Utilizing the Knowledge of Our Retired Population for Career Exploration and Economic Development. But before we start, I would like to acknowledge that this event takes place in Mi'kma'ki, which is the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. We acknowledge the peace and friendship treaties signed by these territories, and we recognize that we are all treaty people. So I just wanted to also make mention that we are recording the Mentoring Plus session today. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenters, and then I will turn things over to them. First up, we have Gordon Michael, who is the Executive Director, Mentoring Plus Strategy, Facility of Open Learning and Career Development for Dalhousie University. And then we have Geraldine McDonald, who's a Regional Coordinator and Assistant Director, the Mentoring Plus Strategy in Glasgow County. So over to both of you. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all here today, and I want to thank NSFM for hosting this webinar on this interesting initiative. What we'd like to do is take you through a process so you understand where it came from, what we're doing, and what the potential could be as we move forward in this time when we have demographics changing in our province, if not across the country. So what we have here is we call it the Mentoring Plus Strategy, utilizing the knowledge of a retired population for career exploration and economic development. It is located in 3 communities, Truro area, Glasgow, and Kent. I'll explain later how we got there. And Dalhousie University is the backbone organization of this, where I'm myself behind the scenes do some direction of this. The first thing I'd like to talk to you about is the demographic opportunity we're facing in this province, if not the country. We all heard the last census that came out and the challenges that now are in front of everybody. Some view them as a negative. I see them as an opportunity. Anyway, these are some impacts of our aging demographic. The largest consumption of capacity in Canada is from this population. They represent 20% of households. They own 28% of national goods. They're generous donators. 42% of all donations come from people who are retired, over $4 billion. They represent 27% of the entire Canadian population. And seniors are the most important clients for travel and tourism, which makes sense. And in some cases, they're the engine for economic growth for the future. Okay, this report came out from APEC, which was quite interesting. We see an increase in number of retirees. We always talk about the increased healthcare costs. A growing number of businesses are now looking for new owners. This is a very interesting time when many businesses today are in a transition, and we see, we see here a reduced labor force. We see the whole issue of we can't get people to work, but yes, there's jobs. The need to broaden our workforce for many populations. And one of the things they mention here, which we'll be talking about, is organizations need to find ways to transfer knowledge from retired employees to the next generation. That's what this project is about. Here are some demographics that some of you can relate to. 55 and over in Nova Scotia. In the last census in 2021 is 38%. And you can see where it is in each of those 3 regions that we're working in. 40% of those people are now 55 and older. And if you drop down and look at the populations based on 65 and older, you see it's almost a quarter in each area. And you notice in the Pictou area how it went up very dramatically in their areas as well. So if you look at the whole province, once you, even in Metro, HRM, the general age is about 30, 4% of people are 55 and older. But outside of that, in many other municipalities, it's almost 38 to 40%. So we see the whole province is that's the demographic we're working with. And it's no different in other parts of Atlantic Canada. A few years ago, in the work I've been doing in adult education, I came across this report called The Future of Work, Our Challenge. And these are really startling statistics. Now, this was done in 2017, but I'm sure today these numbers they vary a bit. But when you think about it, 26.5% of high school grads don't meet post-secondary admission requirements. So if you think about that in the communities you live, a quarter of high school students after they go out of finish grade 12, many of them don't know what they're going to do. And the fact they can't go on the post-secondary is a big issue, whether it's even a community college or a university or any other training. The community college, this stat says that 32% of college students in a multi-year program do not return after the first year. 17% of students in the Maritimes no longer enroll in a maritime university after the first year. So think about this, as parents send their students to university, almost 20% of them after the first year go spend a ton of money and they drop out. 39% of the students take 4 years to finish a degree, while almost 60% take 5. And we know on an average basis, there's about 100,000 people on some form of government assistance, EI, workers' comp, community services, whatever. This was all pre-COVID. What does it look like now, post-COVID? So this is sort of the area we started to look at as I was looking at how do we take the skills of retired people and utilize them to help figure things out. Okay. So prior to the start of this project, which I'll get to in a minute, I did some pilot project work in New Glasgow, Truro, and Kentville. Then I came across a proposal that was put out by the Federal Department of Seniors, and the purpose of the proposal was it was a pan-Canadian strategy for up to 4 to 5 years long, and the purpose is how do we engage seniors to reduce social isolation? So I wrote this proposal through Dalhousie College Continuing Education, and we were successful in there are 22 projects across Canada working on this concept, and how they want to do it, they all vary. So we proposed this and we received the funding. And so this is a picture of the official opening that took place in Glasgow Square in February of 2019. 2020, yeah. So here we have the picture. We have Bill Mills, the mayor of New Glasgow. We have Nancy Dix, the mayor of, Bill Mills, the mayor of Truro, Nancy Dix, the mayor of New Glasgow, and Sandra Snow, the mayor of Kentville. And I'll explain how we got there. We also have the federal minister of seniors in that picture on the second on the left. Diane Tarr is the dean next to Sean Fraser. So this was an interesting day. We had about 75 people in Glasgow Square, and it was a great event. So what is Mentoring Plus? So Mentoring Plus strategy draws upon the knowledge, experience, and skills of retired and near retired people, 55 and over. Now, the question here is that the federal government defines a senior at 55. So that's what we have to use. They help support individuals we call at 16 and over. We're looking at students originally starting at grade 10 and looking at grade 10 population, basically 16 and up, with personal growth, career exploration, and economic development through a variety of, we call them knowledge exchange initiatives. So that's the define. So as I said earlier, we set it up in 3 areas. And the way this worked is that each of those municipalities, namely Kentville, Truro, and the Glasgow municipalities, each signed a document that said they would do these things and we would do these things with Dalhousie about this project. So they became called collaborating organizations. So as you see the map here, we serve the area of Kings County. The funds go to the town of Kentville and so on, and Truro and the Glasgow, but we're serving the region that they encompass. And so there's 2 or 3 municipalities in each case involved because people live in those regions. So that's where the work is presently taking place. So when we develop this process, of course, we look at diversity, representation of various identities and differences. We also look at equity, fair and equitable treatment, access and opportunity, and of course, effort to create the inclusion environments to respect and value. The way we do this work is that many organizations have representatives of various populations that they have in their own organization, like schools have people from the Indigenous and the African Nova Scotia communities. We have immigrant groups working in there. So we work with them. So we don't need the staff of those people because they are already in place. And our role is to work with them to provide the mentors. So the Mentoring Plus strategy basically looks at a high level of personal growth of people. How can mentors help people talk about their own life and where we are? We look at career exploration, and this all ties into economic growth, because if we get young people in a minute you'll see the different populations we work with. And so we take that concept and we tie it into what we call our knowledge exchange experiences. And we have a number of those that are taking place. So in this slide, this shows you where they are, and we have an opportunity to expand that into elected officials and the administrators group. If we can look at retired people who came from those groups, they in turn could be mentors for others who want to move into those sectors. The same with immigration. We're starting to see that growing as well. So Geraldine's now going to take over and talk about these different components in the work we're doing.
Thank you, Gordon. So I'll talk about, as Gordon said, some of the areas we're working in, and I'll start with our health and wellness area. As part of our knowledge exchange happening in the high schools, we have retired people that represent many different careers. And this was part of the pilot project that helped Gordon secure that funding from the Department of Seniors. So in this picture, you'll see this was an event that happened a few weeks ago. Every year, Dalhousie gives first-year med students an opportunity to go into the rural areas of Nova Scotia, just to experience what it would be like working in a rural area. And of course, that issue, we need more doctors in Nova Scotia. So you'll see on the left, we have 6 first-year med students from Dalhousie. We have 2 high school students from North Nova here in New Glasgow that are interested in going into medicine. And then we have a retired pharmacist, dentist, palliative care volunteer. We have our partnership with Healthy Pictou County. So Healthy Pictou County saw it as an opportunity for the med students to speak to that interprofessional health group, those people that they'll be dealing with throughout their careers. So we've gone from going into the high schools and having our individual mentors talk to somebody that may be wanting to work in a hospital or go into dentistry, to bringing them together as that interprofessional team. So the students had a chance to speak to each one of them. It was a fabulous event. In fact, it's an event that the organizers are going to be implementing every year, and this happens throughout Nova Scotia. So here in Pictou County, we had an opportunity to showcase our area to some potential doctors to come into the area. So that was a really, I just wanted to really talk about that event that happened and the impact it made. Gordon, I'll let you talk about the social justice initiative in Truro at this time.
Yeah, so in Truro, as you know, there's a women's correctional institution there. And also in the community, there's a number of organizations like John Howard Society, Elizabeth Fry, and so on that work with offenders. We have mentors who want to work with offenders as well. And so this is an interesting process. So what we've done, this picture shows you a meeting. We brought all the organizations that deal with offenders in that community. We had the Truro Police there as well with their position, as well as all the others. So this is a facilitated day to say, what is this going to look like and how do we build this model? So now we're going to go a next step this summer. We're bringing them back together, and we're going to be able to identify a job. We're putting together a job description for someone who's going to work specifically with this population and with these agencies. And our role then is to provide the mentors who want to work on this side in this case. And this could be a very interesting model that can be put in many communities. Okay.
Hey, thanks, Gordon. And on the right, you'll see we have happening in our Kentville, Kings County region is the Mentoring Lounge, which will be coordinating and implementing in the other two regions. And that is in the high school. And it's a really neat way for retired people to sit down and just talk to students, to anybody, and on career choices, life experiences. So just another example of a knowledge exchange activity. These are pictures of events that have happened in the past year. Even with the pandemic, every time we had restrictions lift, we were able to bring people together. It's important to note we do have a virtual model of this initiative, of this strategy. So 2 models. So obviously something for everybody. You'll see these pictures are from all 3 regions of Mentoring Plus activities and the impact to each of our communities. So we have an interesting model that we're developing at St. FX. It's that university model. So in the picture on the left, you'll see our health mentors go in and speak to health science students during orientation. So St. FX has asked us to work with them to develop that model. Of course, will be available to other universities on the knowledge of the retired mentors, in this case, health, that could speak to, they're actually speaking to 3rd-year nursing students here. So nursing students had a chance to talk to all those people that they'll be working with as part of that health team in their career. And the evaluation was incredible, that nursing students thought that was such a valuable resource to have that day. So our mentors will be part of that orientation to other health sciences students as well. But we're also looking at, once that model's developed, offering it to the other departments at a university. And for the community college, we partner with NSCC because they see this as an opportunity to attract students into their programs, of course, but to really talk about the different programs that are available at the community college. So,
can I just add something to that before we move on? We, at the community college level, we've been in discussion with the president, the vice president, and now at the local level in a community college in the valley, we had senior staff looking at how this model can permeate all their courses, and how do we connect it as well to high school students, so you could have high school students going into the community college with mentors following them the whole way. And this is an interesting whole process. If you start thinking about the skills trade issue, it's a huge issue in this province, and both organizations, the school and the college, see this as an interesting support that can help them. So it's quite interesting.
great. Thanks, Gordon. So it's important to have Mentoring Plus as a resource to the community. We're not here to replace anybody or do anybody else's job. We have this valuable local resource that now organizations are seeing that this really, really benefits our organization and our mandate. So it's the integration of Mentoring Plus into whatever services they provide. So we just had a grand opening here in New Glasgow in the spring at the Ignite Atlantic building. And in there, we have the partners. We have the Chamber of Commerce and SBI, the tourism body. And so this is brings everybody together as that group of community resources. We always call it the one-stop shopping. Same thing is happening in Truro. The office is at the Marigold Center, in with the community groups where you're visible to the community. And in Kentville, they are working on moving into a location that they'll be able to work with the local partners there as well. So that's really interesting and exciting. Employment agencies are seeing the value of our mentors. Maybe not the one-on-one mentoring, but more the life experiences. So in this slide, you'll see this presentation is to Nova Scotia Works. And so it's to the staff, and say they see the value of retired people sharing their life experiences, their knowledge, and some good advice to clients of theirs. So that's another one of those knowledge exchange activities. We had our first MOU signed in Pictou County here in the fall, which provided the template to have other MOUs signed. So this is now happening in the different regions. And the business model is really growing. It's retired people helping business, new business owners, people that want to start a business. And we all know that is a big issue right now, post-pandemic or during the pandemic. So our business mentors do a lot of the one-on-one business mentoring on specific areas with businesses that need that extra help. But they're also coming into the high schools as well. And you can see here, we have one of our retired business mentors talking to high school students on opportunities in the business community, entrepreneurship. So as I said earlier, Mentoring Plus is a career resource for the following. These are the organizations, some of the organizations we're working with now. We have a high school strategy in all three regions of Pictou, Truro, and Kentville. We're working with NSCC, St. FX, and Dalhousie. Dalhousie, not as the backbone organization, obviously that's important, but now working with the med students at Dalhousie and hoping to bring it across in a broader range. Health recruitment and engagement organizations are working with us. Department of Community Services. The Nova Scotia Cooperative Council approached us about a month ago, actually maybe 2 months ago, they provide a training session every summer, 2 weeks of training to youth between 15 and 19 that are looking at, what am I going to do? What, training on what courses are out there, what financial aid is out there, interviews, that kind of thing. So our mentors are part of that process on July 4th and the 11th in Pictou, Truro, and Kentville to provide that life experience, knowledge exchange. So this is the first time we're doing it. We're looking forward to it. And again, it'll be an ongoing resource to the Cooperative Council. Gordon talked about the social justice agencies, and we have a Pictou County Continuous Learning Association. Each area have their own name, but we're working with literacy as well. On the business side, as you saw earlier, we have an MOU with CBDC, Chamber of Commerce we're working with, the regional enterprise networks. And I wanted to put this picture up. This past week, I attended the Pictou County Regional Enterprise Network, and I was really delighted to see the slide come up where the Mentoring Plus strategy is one of the 10 partners for economic development in the area. And I know municipalities pay into the local RENs, so I thought that was a really good fit for Mentoring Plus to be a resource into a community resource. So we also partner with Ignite Atlantic, the Y-Reach Settlement Services. We've had our mentors work with newcomers and helping them to adjust to life in Nova Scotia, adjust to having a business in Nova Scotia, and providing them with that life experience, with that guidance, and they are finding this so valuable. And it's such a wonderful thing just to bring the community together as a whole and be so welcoming through this resource we have in Mentoring Plus. And of course, we're working with Destination Eastern and Northumberland Shores. They have a great program where they have people 55 plus volunteer at the visitor information centers. So we see an opportunity working together because we want that knowledge as well. Mentoring Plus is not about sharing knowledge, just maybe somebody that wants to take a certain path in a career or get advice, but it's always about what else do you do? Gordon always says, what about making pickles? That's knowledge exchange. Knitting, crocheting, that kind of stuff. Telling the story of the area, that's knowledge exchange. So all kinds of different opportunities, something for everyone. Our MOU partners to date that we have signed agreements with, or I shouldn't say agreements, with a partnership with are the Chamber of Commerce, CBDC, Deans, Healthy Pictou County Ignite, and coming soon, Gordon and Paula are working with the Construction Association of Nova Scotia. Lots of opportunity there. Hey, Gordon.
So the way this project is working we're saying in a community, retired people have knowledge. We want you to, here they are. How do you want to use them in your organization to the benefit of your programs? But in addition to that, we're looking at, there are other components in the community that we don't do, but others do, that make a community age friendly. So the way we see this project is Mentoring Plus contributes to the concept of what we call as an age-friendly community. So in preparing for an age-friendly population, the number of adults, as we said, are growing in the area. Municipal governments on the ground, I'm sure you receive an awful lot of inquiries about issues that you don't fund, but they come to you because you're the closest, and that's normal when you think about it, in health and well-being of your residents. And so what we're looking at in this model is how do we align this stuff so that all levels of government, all programs who work with aging can work together and contribute to the population of the aging population. So we have that work on mentoring, but everybody else has something to contribute. So as a result of that, we are now talking about an age-friendly community strategy. Okay? And so building upon New Glasgow, Geraldine, through her work over the years, we even knew her, they created an age-friendly plan based on the World Health Organization domains of an age-friendly community. And you see them all there. So what we're doing is embedding the knowledge exchange of Mentoring Plus into that plan. So, and also in the Glasgow, and Geraldine, you can talk about this, have of the municipalities that are involved.
Okay. So the benefits of an age-friendly community, as Gordon said, back in my previous role as Director of Community Development for the town of New Glasgow, and I may have done a presentation over the years to NSFM on this, but in 2013, around 2012, 2013, the town of New Glasgow, we were updating our community development plan. So I applied for some funding from the Department of Seniors, $5,000, and to do a survey on what programs and resources were out there. Department of Seniors saw an opportunity as New Glasgow being a pilot to develop an age-friendly action plan. So they ended up giving us more money. We had a facilitator come in, worked with New Glasgow and Pictou County, the two municipalities, and developed this age-friendly plan that I touched on, those 8 domains that Gordon, on the previous slide that Gordon talked about. So that plan was a complement piece to the community development plan, which pretty well, as we all know, you have to look through that age-friendly lens for infrastructure, programs, that type of thing. So it was time to update that plan several years later. And right now we are looking at that, and I'll explain more in a minute here. So the age-friendly communities deliver policies, programs, and spaces that help residents maintain their independence as they age. And the plan benefits all ages. We always say 1 to 100. Yes, we're planning for, you'll see at the bottom, plan and design for the old, and you include the young. And it provides an opportunity or tools to live safely, enjoy good health, and stay involved in your community. So you can start seeing where Mentoring Plus fits in with all this. So right now in New Glasgow, we are looking at, Mentoring Plus is taking the lead on updating this plan. We've met with the CAO and the mayor, but we want it to be a regional plan. So Gordon and I did a presentation to the mayors and the warden of Pictou County back in March. And the plan was, who wants to be involved in this regional plan? Well, of course, they all saw the opportunity for this because of what it includes. So it's municipalities working together to form a concrete plan that identifies issues and solutions for the communities involved. In Pictou County, we have 6 municipalities, everybody working closely together, a lot of it for the same issues and solutions. And it focuses on all seniors and all ages living safely, enjoying good health, and staying involved. It includes a checklist for services, infrastructure needs, and it will also list the funding opportunities detailed with the plan, and a sharing of best practices. So once the plan is developed, then it's up to each of those municipalities to look at it, because they all provided input. And then as they work towards their annual budgets, what kind of money do we have to put aside for these issues? The accessibility issue came up, that would be embedded throughout the plan. So it's that one regional plan. And so right now we have confirmation from all our municipalities that they want to be part of a regional plan here in Pictou County. And that's what we're working on now with probably over the next 6 months. It's updating the new Glasgow Pictou County plan to include all municipalities in our region. And then each of them would have that plan for future planning through that age-friendly lens. So that's the connection between Mentoring Plus and this age-friendly process.
And just to add that we're taking that same process into Truro and Colchester,
Yes.
and also Kentville and Kings County area.
That's right.
That's the process of looking at this by a regional way and then embedding everything together. Okay. So these are some questions we put up that we can have some discussion on. How can retired administrative professionals and elected officials become involved? We can have a discussion on that. How do you see the Mentoring Plus strategy contributing to the challenge and opportunities in your community? Are you interested in a follow-up discussion on how the Mentoring Plus strategy can benefit your municipality or communities? So we can have a discussion now, and I just want to thank you all for listening to this, and so let's open it up.
Thanks so much, Geraldine and Gordon. I mean, I've been writing like a crazy person. All these notes. I think it's super, super exciting. And I guess one thing that kind of popped into my head is the fact that like all municipalities were mandated to complete an accessibility plan for their municipalities. And I just see so many parallels in terms of having an age-friendly plan because having a fully welcoming community that includes everyone, where everyone feels welcome and belongs, this is, in my mind, a form of access.
Yeah. I think, you know how government works. Everybody has a pot of money to do something with people. And my belief is that, you know, all these things interconnect. And if we can get people sitting in the same room trying to contribute into an issue, then I think we can make better progress on solving them. And so that's why I think the concept that's already started and we're proposing to keep moving in that direction. I think people will come together. And I think also we get more intergenerational discussion going on, which is healthy for everybody. And so there's a lot of interesting spinoffs. You know, one of the things I'm seeing is that a lot of retired people through this mentoring process are actually going into facilities that they've never gone into in their lives, even though they live in those communities. And they start to see things differently. And so even accessing public schools is the last time they're in there is when they went to school. But I believe that that's a huge resource that we could put in these, we call them Mentoring Plus lounges, where in a library, mentors can sit around and talk to each other. Students can drop in and talk to them. They have a coffee. Makes a lot of sense.
Definitely, absolutely. I guess I would ask if any of the folks joining the webinar today may have some questions. I did invite folks, if you're a little shy to speak, feel free to throw your question in the chat. If not, feel free to unmute and ask a question. Okay. While people are thinking their questions, I guess another question I would have, I see your question on the bottom. Are you interested in a follow-up discussion? So if there were, say, for example, a municipality or a cohort of municipalities. So, for example, Port Hawkesbury is a town in the Strait of Canso area, also on Cape Breton Island. If there were a few municipalities in the region interested in piloting something for Mentoring Plus, how would that? I guess what would that look like? What would be the pathway?
Well, I think the first thing is if you get hold of me, my address is there, an email. we could sit down and bring together the people you're talking about. We can come down and do a workshop for you on how this whole process can work and the cost it would be. And see, we're into a situation. This is a 4-year demonstration project. And of course, now you got to look at the long-term funding of this. But I think some of the interesting issues that are facing us in this province, I'll give you an example. This whole health issue is quite challenging, as we all know. So I just made a connection through Dalhousie and to a person I'm working with, and she put me in directly contact to the director of alumni for the med school and the health professions. So they have reach into all their retired populations. So we're saying what we want to do is create a consortium of retired organizations that represent their members across the province. So if you want to start something in your region, we would have access to mentors who live there already. So that's what we're trying to create, almost a system, right? So yeah, there is a resource. Then we can sit down and say, okay, how do we make this work financially? And then we see ourselves as a resource to your organization once it gets going. Yeah.
And I think
yeah.
Sorry, Gordon. I think it's important that people know right off the bat when we have organizations contact us, okay, well, how much? These are local people freely offering their knowledge. For example, I had one small business. There were only 4 people in the business, and the owner said to me, I can't afford to have a consultant come in and talk to me about how to grow my business. Where should I spend my marketing dollars? And our mentors just provide free advice now. So they thought that was really valuable. So you've got this, every community, every municipality has this local economic resource. And from my background in economic development moving forward, and that's how this whole thing started, was the knowledge is an economic resource. Gordon came to us and said how we can do it. So Mentoring Plus, and you saw all our partners, everybody we talk to can utilize this resource. He's like, we have this resource. How can you use it? And so it's the integration of Mentoring Plus into all these different organizations that is really working. So, and it also keeps our retired population busy. And many of our retirees, if you say social isolation, they'll say, I'm not isolated, I'm staying busy. But there's also that other group that are isolated that we really need to, and that's where the healthcare, that's why this health model is getting so big, and there's so much interest in it, is if we can do that prevention side, keeping people busy, keeping their minds active, then we're really helping our economy in those other ways. So there's so many benefits to this. Gordon and I and Paula could go on for hours, but we just wanted just to touch base on some of those initiatives we're working on with the Mentoring Plus, and it can certainly benefit every municipality and every community. And that's why we're here today, to share this information. So
thank you for that. And certainly, I think, I guess looking at that realm of possibility sometimes kind of begs for a little change in mindset, because sometimes when you hear our population stats and trends, that we have an aging population and that sort of thing, sometimes people tend to kind of think of all, of the things that cause stressors on our systems. But in fact, there are all kinds of benefits that are there if you know how to, I guess, be organized and create opportunities to have some positive collisions between all of the different partners. I think are so rich, like NSCC students, high school students. It just sounds like such a cool program. I'm going to put Glenn on the spot. Glenn, you must have a question.
No, just taking it in with interest. I mean, thinking about the connections in the Antigonish community that could be made. A lot of just reflecting on what you've said, a lot of the work that would align most closely with what you folks are talking about is done by community organizations and not-for-profits in Antigonish, which I imagine would be similar to many communities. So as a follow-up in this community, it might be worth having additional conversations involving that broader community group versus just municipalities. And we face the same challenge that all do, that we've got a limited amount of capacity, and I guess we're blessed in that the community picks up the slack on some of those other pieces. So if we were to do some sort of a follow-up, I think that'd be the best way to go about it.
Sure,
And
sure.
Glenn, if I could add, about 5 years after we launched the New Glasgow County Age-Friendly Plan, I was invited down to do a presentation on an age-friendly community to the mayor and council at the time. Would have been back in 2015, I believe. But also with the work we're doing at St. FX, I've been asked, well, what about the retired people in Antigonish? And I said, exactly, could be, there are a lot of them and that could really benefit from participating. And we also, just this past week, we have our mentor, our MOU with Noble, which I believe up at St. FX, the enterprise leads the Noble model. So we do have one of our mentors in Pictou County working with a business in Antigonish. He agreed to it. We couldn't say it, but he wanted to do that. This is how passionate retired people are about sharing their knowledge and helping others. So I just wanted to give you the background there, that some of those council members are still there. They would remember that presentation, and there was much interest. But again, it's capacity and where do you go next with it? So
Thank you.
Well, and that was a great point for sure, Glenn. Just, sometimes there's an expectation that, municipalities kind of need to carry the ball on some items, but this is a great partnership for all kinds of community partners between the educators and the economic development teams in our region and community. So it's a really exciting model, and I guess a way that our communities can become welcoming. Go ahead, Denise.
Hi, good morning. My name is Denise. I am attending from the municipality of the District of St. Mary's. And I would have to agree with Glenn on perhaps partnering with local communities and see what kind of a program that could be developed and shared amongst the communities. We have a low population density and low population numbers in a great, beautiful geographic area. And we have about 28% of our population that's 65 plus. And it also interests me in what Gordon was saying about tapping into a broader community and how, say, smaller or lower populated communities could access a wider community of professionals that could assist. Because I know we are currently having, as we speak, business owners who are trying to retire desperately in a beloved business. I do see quite a bit of potential, especially on the economic development side.
And when you say that, Denise, it's interesting because there are people, they say that, well, I'm trying to retire. So one of our mentors, he wants to retire. He's a building inspector and a Red Seal carpenter. And so his organization said to him, you take this time to participate in Mentoring Plus, because if you can find people that will take this career path, we need those people. Because you're right, there's people trying to retire, but there's nobody to fill the spots. So he's part of our mentoring team. He's coming into the high schools and he's speaking to students on all the opportunities in that trade. And so because they see the value from their end. So it works both ways, which is great.
And I think in a small community, because of COVID, Geraldine started Zoom calls with mentoring. So think about this. You may not have an astronaut living in your town, but there's somewhere in the world there is one, or anybody else. So what we can do, and here's where I'm going, I want to reach the alumni associations of all the universities in this province. Think about the resource sitting out there. No matter where they live, they could be helping out our communities. If they live in an area, it's face-to-face. If it's not, it could be online. And so young people and other people in any size of community have access to this information. And so that's the process that's really quite exciting about this model.
Absolutely. We've learned through COVID that the world has become much smaller because of technology, for sure.
Yeah.
And much better for our travel budgets, right, Glenn?
Great.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point, Denise. And I know from just being on Cape Breton island, that is a challenge. We have like significant businesses that have been at it for 20, 25 years, and they, it's hard. So I mean, the option is if they can't find somebody to purchase or take over the business is, and some examples of closures because of that. So that's a really good point. Any other questions?
I just want to say something. When you talk, we don't expect the council to do the work. We think your role could be a facilitating one, like you suggested, bringing the people together because you know your communities, and we can facilitate that, and then we can come in and work with them. That's the way I could think it work.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list of partners thinking, every single municipality in the province of Nova Scotia, is directly connected in some way, shape, or form with every partner on this list. Yeah. So I don't think it's a bridge too far for sure for other municipalities or regions to become involved in a program like this. And I know I'll be talking to Nancy and Sandra about it.
Nancy's she's a huge supporter of this.
So she's phenomenal,
she couldn't be on today, she told me, but she was really excited that we were presenting to all of you, because you're right, everybody, usually I know everybody chases money for different projects, but this resource is in everybody's community and it's free. So that's a wonderful thing. So
it's more of a kind of a sweat equity type of initiative where it's the organization and facilitating pieces.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other questions. If anybody else has something burning question or comment that they would like to share. And I hope I'm not keeping you from this beautiful day by forcing questions. Is there anything? Oh, go ahead, Denise. Thank you.
Is this presentation, I noticed it was being recorded. Is it going to be shared with all the participants?
Yes, we're going to get our comms person to put it up on our YouTube channel. And also we're going to include an article in our Monday memo, which will go out to the full membership. A quick little recap of this session and providing the link, because obviously we do have a small but mighty crowd here today, but definitely we want to get this resource information out to the full membership. So we'll make sure that it gets out there to people for sure.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. And I guess any parting thoughts, Gordon or Geraldine?
Well, first I just want to thank you for hosting this, and it'd be interesting sometime, maybe even to listen to the mentors who are now doing this work involvement. I think they're the ones who can tell you what it's, I always believe that if they stay involved, it'd be interesting to track this and see, does it actually help reduce healthcare costs by having retired people doing something with their lives rather than sitting home wondering what they're going to do? That's sort of an interesting approach. And that's where I think there's many components of this thing. Yeah.
And you're right, Gordon. I can follow up, Judy, with you on, we can bring together the people that are, this is the mentors. Yeah. And they tell us all the time how they're enjoying this, because it's all volunteer. We know everybody's busy and we know they're busy. When I first started out, I thought, are retired people going to really want to participate? Absolutely, they do. And we've not even gone on a recruitment yet. It's all through word of mouth, because we've been trying to add a pace during COVID. You got to have things for people to do. So we didn't want to bring all these people on and just have them sitting there. So as we build this and as it grows, more retired people are coming on. And as you know, every day more and more people are turning 55. So we would love to put together a panel if NSFM is interested, and that's our offer. Yeah.
Another thing that's interesting in this project is that when you think, people say, what's my commitment? I'm too busy or whatever, which is fine. We can work in a school system 6 months of the year. That's it. When you think about how a school starts, September, they don't want to see you till October, November, then Christmas hits, and then they were into exams in January. So 6 months of a year is not a long time to do something with students, but that's the way the system works. So when you have retired people and say, you know, you might do 3 or 4 times throughout a year, that's pretty good, right? And that's why we're working with other populations, the unemployed group and others, because they're around all year long. So it's an interesting as you start to analyze how this is going to work. And anyway, it's just is the nature of the beast.
And as Gordon said,
go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, sorry,
Sorry.
Linda. We're in the 3 regions, and you could see through the slides, and we just touched on things that we have different things happening in each region.
Yeah.
So it's all under the Mentoring Plus umbrella. So, and that's the nice thing about, I say to Gordon and Paula, every time we talk, there's another opportunity, because we keep getting, everybody we talk to says, oh, well, that would be great for our organization and this type of thing. So all kinds of different things happening, and that will be packaged together as that model that other communities, municipalities will be able to implement. So it's very user-friendly.
Thanks. I just, one idea that just kind of popped into my head is that, you know, just that knowledge transfer from our retired population, but in the Mi'kma'ki communities, that's very much already entrenched in the culture. It's
Right.
like there's such a strong intergenerational connection between the elders and that transfer of knowledge. So
Yeah.
in some respects, we have to do some catching up with our Mi'kmaq neighbors.
Jennifer, do you have a question there?
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Jennifer from the town of Wolfville. And I was just interested in, like, as we're talking about mentors, do you have any feedback on the people that are mentoring the younger generation and how they feel about the program? I just think that's sort of important. Obviously, we have Acadia University here, and I know some of the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
I'm the chair of accessibility. So Brenda, when you were saying how age in place and everything, we've just passed our next plan 2022 to 26. But I'm thinking that might be something good to add to the plan, this sort of type of program. Yeah, so I'm just interested in the other side, to see what kind of feedback you have on that.
So Geraldine, do you have anything there?
Sure. Because we're building this model, we have to have an evaluation process in place. So we do have 2 evaluators evaluating the program as a whole, but what we do for every knowledge exchange activity we do in the high schools, we have that 1-page evaluation. We need your feedback. Was this valuable? What can we be doing to make it better, to enhance it? We get that from all our mentees. And maybe not from the business one-on-ones, because those are more confidential conversations, but for the groups in general, through the different areas, career, business, high schools, that information helps us build this program better and stronger. And I mean, when we started out a couple of years ago after 2020, Gordon and Paula will tell you, we've changed things along the way, because as you know, as you build something from the ground up, if something's not working, you need to. So that input they provide to us is valuable. And so, yes, we do get that information, and we work on the model based on the information they're giving us. So we get from both ends, mentors, mentees, and partner organizations. Do you find this valuable? So we get that input from everybody and that feedback. So I think for what you're doing, Jennifer, it would be a wonderful resource to add to your program, for sure.
Great question, Jennifer. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, I know this has been super exciting, and we're Judy and our other organizers for our fall convention we're pretty much all kind of all filled up in terms of presentations and panels, but we're definitely going to keep you on our radar for the spring conference, I would say.
Thanks, Brenda. I just wanted to mention before everybody leaves, Paula Irving is our manager of operations, and she didn't speak today, but she ran our slideshow, and she is she works with all 3 regions. Because of this program, we have to have the consistency, we have to watch our brand, we have to make sure that although we're all working on different things in the 3 regions, it all has to come under that goal of Mentoring Plus and that vision. So I just wanted to identify Paula
That's
here.
Great.
So yeah, can't do it without her. And of course, our whole team.
Paula. Thanks, Paula, for everything you do. I know usually Usually the quiet ones in the corner are like, well, you know.
Well,
Mr.
she's our
Straw Hat.
IT person too, because if things go sideways,
Keep us-
Paula,
keep us-
fix this.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
that's like Judy is our Paula.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's all the
Exactly.
cats, keeps us all organized, keeps us
Yeah,
on
that's
track.
right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, listen, everybody, have such a wonderful day, and get out and enjoy the sun if you can. And thank you so much for participating.
Well, thank you for inviting us. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you, everyone.
Most welcome.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.